Hey, what's up? What's up? So today it's gonna be a super quick one, and I definitely wanted to go over Matthew 24. And this video is gonna be about the siege of Jerusalem and the wall, right? So we're gonna start like we always start. We're gonna start with Christ, and let's see. Okay. And it says, "In this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached." This Matthew 24 and 14. "And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, as spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, let those who readeth let them understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulations, such was never since the beginning of the world till this time, nor never shall be." Okay, now I'm going to go up a little bit further to right before this, and I'm going to lead into this. Because this is speaking of 70 years after Christ died. They attacked Jerusalem in 70 AD and took the people down. So Christ was pre-warning the disciples before the Romans came after him, like fleeing to the wilderness. Now, if you look towards the mountains, and that's where it's other books that you need to do your research on. And we're going to go deeper into this. It's the first one. But the book of Josephus is super deep on this. It pretty much describes the siege of Jerusalem. There's a book called From Babylon to Timbuktu. Now, if you look, the only mountains in Jerusalem lead to Israel. Lead to Egypt, lead to Africa. You can't go to Europe from Israel through the mountains. So if you was to flee into the wilderness, like Christ said, we would have ended up in Africa. Now, I'm going to read this, then we're going to go into that, and I'm going to knock something else out to finish it up for the day. But we definitely going to hit this again. It says, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake." A nation is a nationality, y'all. It's not a religion. It's not saying you should be hated out of all religions for my name's sake, out of all beliefs for my name's sake, out of all nations. So out of all the people, because you're like me, you're going to be hated, right? "Then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and hate one another." And that's what we're seeing now with the youth out on the street, killing one another, acting crazy, doing all these things against God. That's what you see right now. And it says, "And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many," which is what happened. It's church on every corner, yet the community not getting better, the people not doing better. "And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold." And that's what happened. That's why it's death and murder everywhere. There is no love, because sin's everywhere. "But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved." So it's not just believing on the name, it's enduring through this. And how would you endure? By keeping his commandments, by being obedient to him during the times where the iniquity of the world is rampant and everything is going crazy. And it says, "And this gospel will be preached unto the world as a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come." So the end won't come until this gospel is preached into the whole world. And it says, "When ye therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. And let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains." All right. Now that's important because we're going into the same situation right now. That's what's happening. If you think that Trump is building his wall to keep Mexicans out, you're crazy. Like Trump is building his wall because after the money starts to fall away and the system starts to teeter, everybody's gonna go home. You had to worry about the Mexicans when the money start going home. They going back to Mexico. You had to worry about the Cubans when the money start going wrong. They going back to Cuba. You know who won't be able to leave? The people who don't have another place to go. And then there'll be a war. Okay, matter of fact, we're going to go into one more thing, definitely, in Revelations. I'm trying to get my computer to work right here, y'all. Yeah, so we definitely, man, that wall is not meant to keep people from entering. It's meant to keep people from exiting. Every other country in the world is set up for the world to slow down economically, where they could control their people in some form or way. This is what we're watching, what we're witnessing, is the one world coming together. And if the one world comes together to make that beast, there's no reason for America. You can't have a beacon of freedom when the world coming together. So you're going to witness the slaughter of the holy people again. It's already ramping up. So it says, Revelations 12:1, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. This is Israel. This is talking about the whole people of Israel, all 12 tribes. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, pain to be delivered. Now the child she's bringing forth is Christ. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. All right, now we know the dragon is Satan. We know that. So it's speaking of a kingdom that worshipped Satan in that time. Okay, now the 7 heads and the 10 horns, right? The 10 horns is because we're speaking of Rome, the last beast, the beast that was and the beast that is not yet. It is still the beast to come. Europe is going to come together, right? And Europe fell apart. After it was Rome, it fell apart and became Europe. They never received the kingdom. They never received the kingdom because America has been the kingdom that's thrived since then. And we're going to go deeper into this into the next one, in the next video for sure. And it says, and his tail drew a third part of the stars from heaven, and he did cast them to the earth. Now we know the stars in the Bible are called the like signs and wonders, and they're all luminaries, which are God's creations, like angels, beings of light, right? So this is Satan's army that came down with him and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered. Who is this dragon? Rome. Edom. It's not against anybody. This is a fact. All right? Like, they wanted to kill Christ on his birth. For to devour her child as soon as it was born. See, they wanted to kill Christ on her birth. Now, think about this. Why would a Jerusalem king want to kill Christ if Christ was supposed to be born to save Jerusalem? This was a person put in place to have power over Jerusalem. The same way they put people in place to have power over countries in the Middle East. This was the same type of thing. This was not the same person as Christ. This was not the same people as Christ who wanted to kill Christ. I mean, eventually they did, but this was not the reason why Christ fled into Egypt. Christ fled into Egypt because there was a set up person over Israel. Christ was the king. And it says, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth the man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God into his throne and the woman fled. So the people left. After Christ left, the people left into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared to God that they should feed her there 1,263 days. So we gonna continue this later on, but all I wanted to get to is this was the same scenario. They fled into the wilderness. And if you read the book of Josephus, which we definitely go get into, it was a wall surrounding them. They starved them during a time of war. People ate their own children. People ate others people's children. They had no food. It was a wall around them. People need to understand and think about that. If they build a wall around you and cut off your food, what are you going to do? So we're going to end this part 1 right here, and we're going to pick it up with part 2 next time. Y'all have a blessed one.